Hello friends, welcome back to another video, or if you are new here, welcome. Fall is in full swing. We have settled back into our daily school routines, and I have shifted my homemaking routines from leisurely summer. Over the years, I've found that although much of homemaking tasks are repetitive, they do seem to change with the seasons some. At least in my house they do. In the fall and winter months, I do a lot more cooking and prepping. I keep the kitchen running and in constant motion throughout the cooler months. If you followed along recently, you know that I am trying to spend a lot less on groceries here, and I've kind of set a pretty hefty goal for myself for the month of October. I'm trying not to spend more than $100 on meals, and with that, I'm also trying to reduce spending on snacks and breakfasts and lunch, stuff like that. So my $100 challenge is mostly for dinners, but I am also trying to reduce the budget of my groceries overall. Times are tough, and I know a lot of people can use tips and tricks on how to bring their grocery prices down. So that is something that I have been working on for my family, but also anybody else that needs that information as well. One thing that I found really helpful for my family in particular is making large batches of things and then setting aside a portion of that batch for the freezer or the pantry. I have been experimenting with a bunch of different recipes lately, one of them being muffins. My kids love muffins. I find it hard to find a child that does not love muffins. So I've been experimenting with muffins because they freeze very well, and then they also make really large batches. So I've made a couple different ones recently that have went over really well, and I'm looking forward to sharing them with you guys. One of them that I am doing today is a banana bread recipe, and I'm just taking that banana bread recipe and I am putting it into a muffin form. So I don't know what it is about my kids, but they would much rather have things when they are shaped like muffins than any other shape. So I know that I can take this and they'll absolutely love it. Now, this is the first time I am making this particular recipe, but this recipe has been passed down through my family for years and years and years. I have just never ever gotten a hold of the recipe until recently. So I'm pretty excited because this has always been my favorite banana bread recipe, and now I can make it whenever I want, and now I'm making it into muffins. The only thing I was missing from this recipe were the chopped nuts, and I am one of those people that I love chopped nuts into all kinds of breads and stuff. I am one of those people. I know there's like a divide in my house where my husband does not agree with this, but I am a strong believer that you do add nuts to banana bread. However, I did not have any, and so what I did was I did some that were just plain banana bread, particularly for me and my oldest son. And then the other ones, I sprinkled some mini chocolate chips on top, and the kids absolutely loved them. I called them chunky monkeys because I remember my brother growing up, he used to eat something like that, and we always called it chunky monkeys. So anyway, that is what I called these to my kids, and they thought it was just so much fun. These are something that I am pretty excited because it made a huge batch for breakfast this morning, but then also I can put some aside for the freezer as well. If you are interested in any of today's recipes, I will have them down below in the description box if you're wanting to try any of them out for yourself. Now, I was discussing earlier how I keep the kitchen in constant motion, particularly in fall and winter months. I don't know what it is about those months. I tend to be very leisurely about my homemaking. In the spring and the summer, we go outside, we enjoy ourselves, and I'm not spending too much time in the kitchen, or nearly as much if it's, warmer outside. But I hear a lot from other moms about how it is so hard keeping up and always making something from scratch and having to keep up with that kind of routine. And I think the key to that is just keeping your kitchen in constant motion. I wake up most mornings before the kids and immediately start on breakfast, even before I'm like fully awake, before I even have my coffee or before I'm even dressed. Most mornings I am up starting breakfast. And in these situations, I'm starting breakfast, but then also making a double batch of the muffins and putting that second batch in the freezer for another time. Now you've noticed I have switched over to a new meal. I've finally gotten dressed, but it is still the morning. One thing I constantly am doing is I love to do like dump and go recipes in the crock pot, and it is another way of keeping your kitchen constantly running. So I am starting some dinner in the crock pot before the kids are going to be doing school. So they are up at this point, they are getting dressed and ready for the day, and I am quickly throwing dinner in the crock pot, and I'm going to get that going to keep the kitchen constantly running. That way we'll already have dinner done. We've already have breakfast. We have breakfast for another time. And then throughout my slower periods during the day, whenever we have breaks from our school or the kids are working on independent stuff, then I can come in here, I can start on lunch, I can start on some bread or some dessert. It's just constantly being in the swing of things and keeping your kitchen constantly running. It goes a lot smoother when you are doing things from scratch if you're just doing it in small little pieces throughout your day. So that is kind of how I do things. And I feel like crockpot meals are just a complete lifesaver. So the one I'm making tonight for dinner is taco soup. It is, I like to do some sort of taco meal throughout the week. And I don't do this nearly as often, but it is such a great recipe and it's so easy. It's just dump and go basically. I usually will use ground turkey. However, I have not been able to find that in our stores around here. So, and I've actually checked more than one, so it's kind of interesting, but I used 1 pound of ground beef and I cooked that on the stove with an onion, and then I am throwing in all the rest of the ingredients into the crock pot here. Now, usually you will use a can of Rotel, but I am using what we have and we do not have any Rotel. On top of that, my husband, he gets really bad heartburn, so I figured that just the diced tomatoes would work out perfectly, and it did end up working out so much better. I think I'll end up making the switch to that so he does not have to endure the heartburn as bad, and it just is something that I usually have on hand are the diced tomatoes and not usually the Rotel. So anyway, I will have those ingredients listed down below. It is just a very quick and easy dump and go recipe, and it makes such a perfect weeknight dinner. So this is actually later in the day. We have wrapped up school and chores and everything else that we have planned for the day. And I am back in the kitchen and I'm getting something else started for our freezer. Now, I have made homemade pizza a bajillion of times on my channel. However, this is a new pizza dough crust recipe that I'm trying out. I have been working a lot more with my sourdough and trying to figure out quite a bit more sourdough recipes. And that is what this one is. It is a sourdough pizza crust. And I am so glad that I ended up trying this because it actually turns out really, really good. If you're interested in seeing how the pizza turns out, I will be sharing at the end of the video. I do in this video, I make the pizza and everything like that, and then I wrap it up for the freezer, but then we decided to test out one of them the next day, and I will be sharing at the end of this video how everything turns out. The recipe that I'm trying said to not overwork your dough, so I got it formed into a dough ball. I'm going to cover it, and my kitchen is a little cooler today. Our temperatures dropped this week, so I'm not sure. It might take a little bit longer to rise compared to what my sourdough has been rising recently. So we'll just see, but I'm going to cover it and hopefully it will double in size and not take too long, but I'm hoping to turn this into 2 pizzas that I can put in the freezer and save for a later time. Another part of keeping your kitchen in constant motion, I think, is constantly really having to clean it, unfortunately. I know that people hate doing dishes and cleaning the floor and stuff like that, but my kitchen in particular, we are constantly home. We homeschool, and so it is constantly in use. It is constantly in motion, like I've said, and cleaning up and staying on top of it really helps keeping it working. So I am starting on dishes, and this is something that I kind of do all day as well. I'll come in the kitchen after breakfast. I'll put some of the dishes away. Usually one of my teenagers, they rotate between who is doing dishes. So they will also come and do the dishes in the morning, and then throughout the day we're just slowly loading the dishwasher. I like to come in here after school when I have some peace and some time to myself, turn on a YouTube video, and just be able to get some of the kitchen stuff done. Show you guys what just happened. I was doing dishes, and there was a really loud door slamming. So my bedroom doors, there's two of them. This one is always locked though, and this one is usually open. And it was open, and that is the door that I heard slam, so I didn't think anything of it. However, when I walked over here, I fixed it now, so it's a little hard to explain, but okay, so they're closed. However, this door was almost like still trying to come out this way, and there's like a barrier, so it can't. And so I thought that was kind of weird, so I went to go open it, and we have windows and stuff open because it is a beautiful day outside. It is like 70 degrees. And so I just, oh, okay, you know, the wind must have just kind of slammed it shut. So I tried to open it. However, I had to like push my body into it because it was stuck. And when I got the door open, this door was wide open, and it was a struggle to actually close that. And so I don't know if maybe when I let the dogs out, I didn't fully close this. I don't know if somehow, I don't know. I mean, it is very, very windy out, but it was kind of wild to come in and like all my doors were slamming and closed. This one was wide open. I'm surprised it didn't break like this basket here because it was like slamming up against it. I've not seen that. So I'm assuming I just didn't get the door closed all the way when I let the dogs out. But like you can see like the pool cover, it is just blowing around. It is really, really windy out today. So that was just like alarming. I'm doing the dishes and doors are slamming really hard, and I got freaked out for a second there, but glad that's all that was. So kind of an interesting story. Like I said, I thought that I just didn't get the door closed all the way when I went to let out the dogs. But this is the next day when I'm doing this voiceover for this video. So that happened yesterday, but today, the same exact thing happened, but it happened in the boys' room. So if you're unaware of like the layout of our house, they are across the house from us. It's so hard. So like the pool is in the middle. We have like a U-shaped house, and if we're on one side of the U, the pool is in the middle, and then the boys' room is on the other side of the U. And so they also have a door to go outside. However, we had been doing school and a lot of stuff inside. We haven't really ventured outside today, at least at that point. And for whatever reason, their door, the wind is really bad today. It also did the exact same thing from outside. So I'm going to have to look at it a little bit more to kind of figure out what exactly is happening around here. Another part of keeping my kitchen constantly running is the drinks. So we do not really buy soda at all. There are occasions where we will buy it, or if it is like just the most amazing sale ever, we'll buy it. But usually we don't. My husband and I, we don't really drink it. And my kids, we don't really want them drinking too much of it. And I know if we have it, they'll just go nuts and really drink all of it at one point. So we try to minimize that as much as possible. I will often make tea. I usually will make like a sweet tea. I've started making unsweetened tea for myself because I do not usually drink sweet tea either. So I will make tea ahead of time for dinner or whatever if they are wanting a sweet drink and something that is not just water. I've also shared before on my channel that I usually will drink one of these a day, sometimes not even every day. Lately, it's been like only a couple times a week. I will drink one of these citrus crystal lights. They are probably they're the only flavor I actually ever drink, but they are definitely my favorite. So that is something that I usually will drink, other than, if I'm wanting something other than water. But to keep the kitchen constantly going, I work on the drinks and making sure that, if they're wanting something that is not just water or milk, we have that for them. I'm getting sourdough going right now. You don't end up seeing it, but I'm also getting some coffee going. I make my coffee the day before, and I actually make a pitcher of it so it lasts a couple of days. And I'll make it before. That way it's like creamier that way, and it's cold. I drink my coffee cold. So, that I'm showing you the consistency of my sourdough starter. I found that I don't really measure it, and it works out a lot better. I go off of consistency and not measurements, and it has been working out significantly better for my sourdough starter. So that is what I was showing you there. But keeping up with the kitchen, keeping it running smoothly is not just about prepping for food. It is about drinks as well. Thinking ahead for the coffee. Like I said, it's every few days I make a pitcher of it, and I like it cold. So I will make it the day before, and I feel like it's creamier. It's a little thicker. And that is what I enjoy. So I make it ahead of time and I put it in a pitcher. And so I have that going. I have tea. I have all kinds of things in the kitchen going. And it's just working on it little by little, but keeping the kitchen constantly running. So while I have a break from doing all of those things, I'm getting some sweeping done. I don't have time to do a whole mopping of the floor, but I'm wanting to get the floor kind of mopped. So I'm going to go in with my spray mop and get some of that done while I have some time. I like doing that because it dries so insanely quick, and it's something that I can do while I'm waiting for my husband to come home or I'm waiting to serve dinner. And it dries so quickly that I don't have to worry about little footprints or anything that usually end up on the floor. I don't really have to worry about that. So I like doing this a lot during the week. It gets the floor nice and clean, and it's very, very quick. So on the weekends, I reserve that time for mopping the floor, but this is what I usually do during the week. Another thing that I usually reserve for the weekends is getting this big corded vacuum out, and I will do a lot of the carpets and rugs on the weekends with this, and then like during the week I'll just use my cordless vacuum to do like quick vacuums. But I didn't get a chance to do it this past weekend because we were at the pumpkin patch and just doing a whole bunch of fall activities. And I was sitting there while we were doing school, and Theo was reading to me on the couch, and I was so disgusted by the amount of dog fur on this rug. So I'm like, you know what? I need to get to that. It's just going to drive me nuts, and I cannot possibly wait until the weekend. So that is why I'm actually whipping this out today, because I could not take it another second longer. We have 2 dogs that have long fur, and they just constantly shed. I know that there's like some dogs that have like certain time periods of the year where they shed more than others, but I swear mine dogs, they're just constant. It's constantly shedding, and it doesn't seem to matter if we're like brushing them constantly or giving them baths or what. So yeah, I will usually vacuum every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, to keep up with their dog fur, but I don't usually bring this big vacuum out until the weekend. However, it was just so bad I needed to get to it today. Okay, so just because I am curious and want to know, but I will often reserve a lot of the chores and stuff for after school time. So I will really focus on school and everything with the kids for that first half of the day. And then once school is over, I will get to all the chores. However, I noticed that I will wait for like when my husband leaves work. He has a 40-minute commute, and I'll wait for that 40-minute commute, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, okay, start the timer and see how much I could possibly get done before he arrives home. It has like literally nothing to do with him and just me like challenging myself or something in a way. You know how like you do the most cleaning right before someone's about to come over? It's almost like that, but it's just like me doing it. I don't know. Does anybody else do that? Like, you know, you set a timer or so. I mean, it's not even like I'm setting a timer, but I know that it takes my husband 40 minutes to get home, and I will go crazy doing everything I possibly can in that 40 minutes to get to just to see how much I get done. Anyway, does anybody else do that, or is it just me? Anyway, dinner is done, and so I am putting it into bowls. A lot of times I will serve this with like cornbread or like some tortilla chips on top, but we are just keeping it really simple. I was really craving like butter bread, so that is what we're doing tonight. We just had a bowl of the taco soup and some butter bread. I do put on like sour cream or cheese. Sometimes if we have avocados, I'll put that on. It kind of just really depends, but everybody will come in and they just kind of pick whatever they want on their soup that night. The boys were outside. They were riding bikes. They love going out in the evening after dinner and riding their bikes and scooters and stuff like that. My husband will often go out with them, and usually the bigger kids, we kind of all go outside after dinner. And I'm not really sure why he was following them with the golf cart. Probably just easier than on foot. But anyway, he was doing that. They ended up driving off on the golf cart to go to the park down the road. So I felt like that was the perfect time to come inside and work on these pizzas for the freezer now that the dough is finally rose enough to work with. So I am cutting the dough into two because I'm wanting to do two different pizzas, and I'm going to spread them out onto a greased pizza pan, and then I will go ahead and poke them with a fork a bunch of times so they don't bubble up as much, and put them into the oven to partially bake before I put the toppings on. I am definitely a fall girl through and through, but one thing I know that I'm really going to miss until summer of next year is this sunlight. I hate how it gets dark so quickly. I think it's this weekend, or oh no, maybe it's next. Maybe we have 2 weeks until we have to turn the clocks, and I am just not looking forward to it. My husband usually does not get home until it is after dark once winter hits, and I know that we will miss that time outside with the boys and just having that after dinner, even before dinner. I mean, it gets dark so quickly, and I'm really not looking forward to that. So I love fall, and I like winter down here. I did not like it so much up in Chicago because of all the snow, but I'm really not looking forward to having to give up those evenings where it is still nice and sunny and we can take the boys out to ride bikes and go to the park and go fishing and stuff like that. I am really going to miss that until next year. I can definitely say that. I've pre-baked these for about 5-10 minutes, just until they were starting to brown and kind of harden up a little bit. And then I am going to let it cool down a little bit, and then I'll wrap them and put them in the freezer for another time. I wanted to include this footage from the next day because we went ahead and got one of the pizzas out of the freezer and tried that for lunch the very next day. So I wanted to try it out. That way I could also figure out if I wanted to make more of these pizzas for the freezer. They are such a great thing to have on hand for a quick and easy meal. But I wanted to make one to try out and then share how we liked it. So the pizza got more done than I wanted. I got a little sidetracked on a phone call, but lucky for me, my kids will eat it this done, and I actually prefer it like this, but anyway, it turned out perfectly. It smells amazing. I cannot wait for them to dig in and try out this new crust that I'm trying. If it turns out good, I'm actually going to use more sourdough and make a couple more pizzas for the freezer. I am the only one that has tried this so far. The boys are playing outside, but I went ahead and tried it while it's cooling down so I can see if I really like this crust and if I want to make more for the freezer. I just have to say this is so good. So I am definitely going to be making more of these for our freezer. It is such an easy thing. You take them out frozen and pop them in the oven until they're done. You can add whatever toppings on them that you want. I just did cheese because that is what my kids like. But man, this is a really good recipe. So I will have this listed down below in the description box if you want to try it out yourself. This is all I have for you today, so I'm going to wrap up the video here. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!